The Home Depot is making it easy to turn your favorite moment into the perfect color for any room with the Project Color app. Upload any image, then discover the colors and paint to match. Now you're a swipe and a click closer to everything you need for your next project. Explore the most popular colors and trending palettes to find your perfect paint. Get a colorful new experience with the Project Color app, then shop our best brands with gallons starting from just $25.97 at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. U.S. only. See store for details.
Football represents something we are.
Football is like life. You gotta push.
Fantasy football is about proving that you are better than your friends.
Hold up.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Faceoff.
I'm gonna do what's best for the team.
Where fantasy meets reality.
Pure fantasy football nirvana.
And now your hosts.
Let the games begin.
Anthony Cervino and Michael Hauff.
Welcome back, everybody, to the FF Faceoff. This is a podcast, of course, where fantasy meets reality, and we are proudly brought to you by the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, the best in the world!
My name is Michael Hauff. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at the FF Realist. My partner in crime is Anthony Cervino. He can be followed at the Real NFL Guru. Anthony, man, how you doing today?
I would be a lot better if my Scott Fishbowl draft was going the way I wanted it to go.
All right. Well, listen, we may as well just call it the trending topic right now, Anthony. If you want to hit the sound drop, hit the sound drop. But yeah, this is our trending topic of the day, of course, that being the SFB9 draft is underway. Most of you who listen to this show should know what it is by now. We did a mock draft on it. Could go over to scottfishbowl.com. Check it out. Check out Fantasy Cares. Feel free to donate. Anyway, the draft is underway. Anthony, how is your roster looking so far? I know you're getting a little uptight now. A little uptight, you know? You want to talk about it?
I am one pick away.
Okay.
From my my fourth pick overall in the draft. I'm at the turn. I started at the 101 with Ezekiel Elliott. Surprise, surprise. Right. And then coming back, I took Aaron Rodgers and Mike Evans. And Mike Evans normally isn't one of my guys, but all of my targets, that include Joe Mixon, Damian Williams, they were gone.
Yeah.
So all of these mocks that we participated in are worthless.
That's the spirit. That's the spirit. All right. There you go. Yeah, I mean, my roster, I mean, I kind of went against the grain here, Anthony. Obviously, we've been texting each other back and forth. I started off my draft 5th overall. I went with Kelsey. And when it came back around with the 8th pick in the second round, Zach Ertz was still sitting there. So after debating for 30 seconds, I said, screw it. So I started off my roster with Kelsey and Ertz, which, by the way, if you're following at home, if you're aware of the SFB9 draft and the scoring, tight ends are it's good to have tight ends, full point per reception as opposed to half a point elsewhere and a full point for first down. So I like to start with Kelsey and Ertz. After that, I went Thielen, Marlon Mack, and then Drew Brees. And now I'm impatiently waiting about 6 more picks. Can't complain, though. My draft's been moving pretty quick. But, Anthony, anything else to talk about with SFB9 or anything else you want to vent about?
I was hoping I was going to make my pick right about now, but still waiting.
Well, listen, if there's any reason to tune in, it's because right now, depending on when this mystery person makes their pick before Anthony, we don't want to call people out. It's not good to call people out if they're taking a while to draft. People have lives, whatever. But you may get to see a meltdown on air here if Anthony doesn't get the guy or guys that he wants. So that's more than enough reason to tune in. But today, as far as this show itself, beyond the meltdown, potentially, we're going to be talking about some bounce-back wide receivers. If you're curious about bounce-back running backs, we did that. So go to a previous show, not the last show, the show prior to that. You can check that out on the doc, whether that's on YouTube, whether that's on iTunes. Anthony will get to that in just a moment because here's a public service announcement from his lordship.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
All right, guys, you know the drill. If you like today's episode and subscribe to the channel, please leave us a comment saying that you have subscribed. And once you're done, we will reply back to as many as we can to show our appreciation to you. And I always like to remind you that if you ever want to skip to a certain segment of the show, all you have to do is go into the description, find the timestamp, and if you're using a desktop device, you'll click on it and it will take you where you want to go. If you're using a mobile device, including YouTube mobile, the timestamp links do not work. That's a YouTube problem, not a me problem or a Mike problem, so please take it up with them, not us. And if you're using a podcast format, same thing. All you have to do is see the time, see the topic, open up your video or your podcast window, and just go to that time. Just click the button and drag to the time. Takes 3 seconds. And one more thing, if you're listening on a podcast format, especially an Apple Podcast or any other platform that allows you to leave us a 5-star rating and review, please subscribe. Please leave us a 5-star rating and a 5-star review telling everyone why you love the show and why we are the best damn fantasy football podcast on the planet where fantasy meets reality. Because it helps us reach more people. It helps us out with our social proof and everything else like that. So please leave us a 5-star rating and review right now. You don't even have to pause the show. You can just minimize it. Go to our show link. Leave us the rating and review. Subscribe, like, all that good stuff. It helps us get bigger and it helps us grow, which is very, very important. As we're going to our 3rd year on the podcast.
Bottom line, help us to help you. There you go. Appreciate it. Anthony, 2 real quick things before we get into our bounce back wide receivers. Jimmy Garoppolo is expected to be a full go at camp. This is not really news. This is what most of us expected, actually. Just this means that he's right on course of what he's doing. Anthony, the other thing we thought we'd mention before we go any further is some little Cortland Sutton news where they expect him to be a top receiver, do they not?
He's gonna puke! He's gonna puke!
Yes, they do.
Yeah, looks like, see if we can bounce back off of the, not terrible rookie year. I think folks expected some more. 42 receptions, 704 yards, 4 touchdowns. Are you buying into a sophomore sensation potentially?
I'm not taking him on any of my teams right now. I don't have any shares of Cortland Sutton. He didn't show us a ton last year, and it's not like he didn't have the opportunity because they moved on from Demaryius Thomas. Emmanuel Sanders, tore the Achilles, and Deshaun Hamilton and Tim Patrick were showing more promise than Cortland Sutton. So I'm pumping the brakes a little bit. I need to see him do it before I jump the gun and take him. His ADP, let me pull that up right now. His ADP, what? Do you know where that is, Mike?
I don't have it handy, unfortunately. But while you look it up, I'll just say to you, though.
All right, it's 3rd pick in the 10th round.
It's not awful.
At the 909, and he could potentially slip, you can get a DK Metcalf. You can get Marquez Valdez-Scantling with a better quarterback. You can get Kiki Cutie a couple picks behind Cortland Sutton, or even a Curtis Samuel. I will go with every one of those players over Cortland Sutton 100% of the time.
Yeah, but Anthony, just really quick, though. Joe Flacco's throwing the ball. That's your boy, right?
Are you really going to have this conversation when I say that Marquez Valdez-Scantling has the better quarterback? You're going to throw Joe Flacco? Throw that in my face? It's not like we're talking about Eli Manning.
You love him, so yes, I am going to throw him right in your face. Yes.
Because I did say Joe Flacco right now is better than Eli Manning right now. I didn't go any further than that. You're bringing up Aaron Rodgers. Come on. That's a reach.
Joe Flacco and Eli Manning, like an island of misfit toys. All right, let's get out of here. Let's do our bounce back wide receivers. Anthony, first wide receiver we're going to talk about today is a guy that, well, you're high on their team. We'll find out just how high you are on him individually. That would be A.J. Green of the Cincinnati Bengals, currently ADP half-point formats, of course, is the sixth pick of the third round. That puts him right behind Adam Thielen, right in front of Amari Cooper. Now, this is what A.J. Green has been. Now, back in 2000, we're going to date this back to 2012, and I'll tell you why. He was number 3 wide receiver back then. 2013, he was number 4. Through 13 games in 2014, he was 24. Bounced back in 2015 as the 8th best receiver. In 10 games in 2016, 34. And then wide receiver number 10 in 2017. Anthony, I'm not sure. I don't have it up here where he finished 2018. But the thing I want to bring up here is, first things first, when we talk about bounce back, how far do we think he can finish in the top 10 anymore? Because let's keep in mind, he's 31 years old. He's on a contract year. He now has a new offense, a new head coach. Still has the same quarterback in Andy Dalton. But are we drafting him in the third round based on his resume, or are we drafting him in the third round based on what he can give us in 2019?
I don't think you can realistically think about A.J. Green as that same top 5 receiver that he used to be. But right now, he is going as the 13th receiver off the board. Third pick, 7th pick in the third round. And the last time he played, 15, 16 games a couple of years ago, he finished as a top 10. He finished as the wide receiver 10.
Right.
That's the new ceiling.
Yeah.
The ceiling is no longer top 5. But can he still finish as a fringe wide receiver 1? Absolutely, if he plays a full slate. Because I think this Bengals offense is going to be pretty good this year. Not to mention, they're going to pass a ton because of how poorly their defense is most likely going to play.
So, based on based on last year, of course, he was injured. We expect him to bounce back from that. But we temper expectations, basically telling you that the days of top 5 are over. It's now top 10. Anthony, personally, if it's me, while his ADP isn't the worst, some people you notice on Twitter, especially I've noticed with this SFB draft. Again, this SFB draft is very much different than than your father's traditional draft. But it seems like folks are kind of sour on this ADP. Me personally, I think I would rather go with, say, an Adam Thielen, who I mentioned, or even an Amari Cooper, and then wait about 3 rounds later for Tyler Boyd. Your thoughts on that? Are you pulling the trigger on an AJ Green? I know you're high in the Bengals. It
depends on what is there. It depends on draft flow and who else is there.
Well, we'll put it that way. You're looking at Thielen, AJ Green, and then Amari Cooper.
No.
Right.
No, I'm gonna go with Thielen, who is consistent. I'm gonna go with Cooper, who brings, who knows what his upside is. Could it be, top 8? And he's gonna bring you those big boom games, and then there's gonna be AJ Green is gonna be my third ranked out of those players. Last year he finished as a top 20 receiver.
Okay, yeah.
In 5 of 9 weeks. And a top 24, which is wide receiver 2 status, in 7 of 9. 16th in fantasy points per game amongst wide receivers, average 16.6 fantasy points per game. 3rd in contested catch rate on 18 targets. I mean, he is still a productive receiver. I just don't see him being what he was 5 years ago. But here's something I did like. Despite only playing in 9 games, he was a 5th receiver in red zone target share, 32.6, 14 red zone targets, and 2nd in end zone target share, 52%, 13 targets. So he's still getting the red zone and end zone looks, which is really good for his touchdown numbers.
All right. So basically, So final conclusion, he will bounce back based on last year, but don't expect top 5 like you would get back in, say, 2012, 2013, 2015, even inside the top 10. We're expecting him on the outside looking in, but not too far off, right? Is that the final conclusion?
Yes.
All right. So there you go. So from there, we'll move on to Cooper Kupp. Now, the definition of Cooper Kupp, as far as definition of bounce back in regards to Cooper Kupp, is basically it relates to, will he be fully recovered? Will there be any restrictions from the ACL tear that he had back in Week 10? As of late May, he was a spectator for the most part during Rams OTAs, but all indications are that he's going to be more involved in training camp once training camp gets going on July 27th. Mark your calendars. But, Anthony, the real question is, and we've talked about this on the air before, how does he stack up against the Robert Woods, the Brandon Cooks? It seems like from the public perception, Kupp is the least of the three. At least that's what I've noticed. I think he'd be more consistent than, say, a Brandon Cooks. Robert Woods, that remains to be seen. But and the other thing I've always pointed out is that when you watch the trend last year of after Kupp went out with that ACL tear finally at home against the Seahawks, you noticed a trend in which Goff started to struggle as well. Goff is going to need to throw the ball here if Gurley can't go every single game, if he can't run the ball as much as he does. What are we expecting here out of Cooper Kupp?
I think the biggest hiccup with a lot of people is if Cooper Kupp is going to be Cooper Kupp health-wise in Week 1. And from all the reports that I've seen, I don't see anything saying that he's going to end up on a PUP list barring a setback.
Right.
So even if he gets off to a slow start, 2-4 weeks by October, you're going to get the Cooper Kupp that we're used to seeing, or that we began to see last season when his career really looked like it was going to take off before the injury derailed him.
Yeah, those first couple of weeks, Week 4, he was the number 1 receiver. Week 5, he was the 8th best receiver. Then he ranked outside the top 20, but that was, I believe, when he missed some games when he first hurt his knee when they were playing at Denver. Then Week 9, he came back. He was tied for the 9th best wide receiver, and then Week 10, the season concludes. So he's pretty consistent once he's playing. So it's just a matter of if that knee's going to be right. I think he bounces back. I think he could be the Rams' number 1 receiver. I know we've talked about this before. I think, if anything, his main competition is going to be Robert Woods, only for the reasoning that I think Brandon Cooks this year is going to be more boom or bust, I suppose. Are you still siding with Cooper Kupp as being the Rams' top receiver, or?
Yeah, I still strongly believe that Cooper Kupp, once we get a full season out of Cooper Kupp health-wise, that he will be the most productive receiver on the Rams. He is one of the more efficient receivers in the NFL. He was 4th in fantasy points per target, 4th in QB rating when targeted. When Jared Goff targeted Cooper Kupp, he had a 132 quarterback rating, 13th in dominator rating, despite only playing, 8 or 10 games last year? 15th amongst wideouts in fantasy points per game, 14th true catch rate. These efficiency numbers are ridiculous. He's basically top 15 or 20 in everything. Yards per target, 14th, 16th in yards per pass route, 11th in target accuracy. So Goff is money when he's throwing him the ball. Had an 83.8% snap share and ran out of the slot 73% of the time. And did you bring up his end zone and red zone efficiency?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And then, you again, and just to close it up, when you go after that and you look at Goff after Week 10, you only had 1 game inside the top 5, as opposed to 3 games in the top 5 prior to that, prior to the injury, of course. Yeah, I think he bounces back, and I like him at this ADP for, by the way, if I failed to mention, 2nd pick of the 5th round. I don't hate that ADP going around the likes of, say, Chris Godwin's going right in front of him. Kenyon Drake is right behind him. Tyler Lockett. I mean, some solid company behind him. But, I mean, I would be okay with spending that ADP, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And for anybody who thinks, well, there's too many, the cliche, there's too many mouths to feed.
Right.
The Rams run 3 wide receiver sets 83% of the time.
There you go. Bingo.
So you're going to see a lot of, we see a lot of Woods, Kupp, and Cooks on the field. And they're all productive.
All right. So there you go. Next up on the list we're going to talk about is Allen Robinson. I mean, really, he's kind of fallen from what was once a very sexy option at wide receiver, dating it back to 2015 when he had that 14 touchdown year, 1,400 yards receiving. Last year, after coming back from the knee injury, signing with a new team, being with the Chicago Bears, ends up with 55 receptions, 754 yards, 4 touchdowns. I mean, Anthony, we've had that one big year that I mentioned. But beyond that, there's been injuries, and then you're looking at 2016, for example, after that big year. 6 touchdowns, 883 yards, 73 receptions. Right now he's going with the 8th pick in the 7th round. Is Allen Robinson what we saw last year, or is he still striving to be what we saw in 2015?
Last year he missed 3 games, and then in 2017 he obviously missed pretty much the whole season.
Yeah.
So maybe
he was there for the first game, I think.
His second year. This is going to be his second year removed from the injury, so that could help. But what doesn't help is that the Bears ranked 27th in pass plays per game. They only ran 34.1 pass plays per game last year. And they were a productive and winning team that didn't pass a ton.
Right.
What also threw up a red flag a little bit, only 4 touchdowns, where rookie Anthony Miller, he had 7, and I'm trying to pull up what Miller's red zone numbers were. But, Robinson had 5 red zone receptions, 9 end zone targets, and 12 red zone targets last year.
Yeah, I'm pulling up. If you give me a second, I could pull up his red zone numbers. That being
Miller?
Anthony Miller. Yeah, I'm pulling that up now.
Yeah, okay. I have here in 15 games, Miller had 11 red zone, 8 in the end zone, and 7 red zone receptions, 7 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So he seems to be the red zone target. Obviously, you can include Trey Burton there too. They also drafted David Montgomery. So I'm a little hesitant with Allen Robinson. I understand he's a team's wide receiver 1 that you can get at what ADP? 7th round?
7th round. 8th pick of the 7th round, which really you're looking at the likes of like Dante Pettis, Christian Kirk. Those are the flavors of the month right now. That's what everybody's hot and bothered about.
I'm more willing to go with either one of those younger players, because I think we are going to see the 49ers pass a lot more and be more efficient with Jimmy Garoppolo, and then obviously Kyler Murray. They were a bottom 10 team in pass plays per game with Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray and all the 4 wide receiver sets. They're going to be a top 10 team in pass plays per game. So there's going to be more opportunity.
Right. But let's just, all right. So I mentioned Christian Kirk, Dante Pettis in front, and we both said we're not going that route, which, okay. Behind him, at least talking about, these are the players. There's Miles Sanders, Vance McDonald, Jordan Howard. If you're looking at wide receivers, it's Will Fuller and Sterling Shepard. Would you rather have Will Fuller or Sterling Shepard over Allen Robinson? Or is that kind of where are you okay with taking Allen Robinson at least in front of those guys?
I think it depends on league format. If I'm in a best ball league, I would probably go Will Fuller.
Yeah, best ball, yes, absolutely. Best ball, boom, boom.
Even Sterling Shepard is tempting. I mean, Anthony Miller. Allen Robinson, he saw at least 8 targets in only 5 of 13 games. And he only finished as a top 20 fantasy receiver twice. I need better than that, which is why I am probably going to fade him.
Yeah, so we're not expecting really a bounce back. At least I'm not. I'm expecting more of the same. I mean, maybe he'll give you, instead of 4 touchdowns, 5, maybe 6. Because again, like Anthony mentioned, those throwing numbers, I don't think that's going to change much unless you see something sort of with the Falcons, what happened to the Falcons, where they had a lot of injuries on defense. But even then, Trubisky's not going to throw the ball like a Matt Ryan would. And there's a lot of targets there. You're going to get limited throw. I mean,
their pass to run, 53.3 to 46.7 pass to run ratio in Chicago.
You need to understand what you're getting there with Chicago. And by the way, sidebar, I don't know why. Did you see that whole thing with the betting line that people are picking Trubisky to be MVP?
Of what?
I'm thinking best player in Chicago.
The Bears?
I guess. Yeah, maybe team MVP. But anyway, I think you're expecting more or less the same from Allen Robinson. Not really a bounce back, just steady as she goes. And we would go with Christian Kirk or Dante Pettis ahead of him, of course, which right around the same ADP.
Yeah, and I wouldn't blink an eye. I wouldn't blink an eye with either one of those second-year players.
Speaking of Christian Kirk, let's talk about his teammate, Larry Fitzgerald. Of course, he's, what is he going on, 35 years old now? Yeah, he is. Current ADP is the 12th pick of the 8th round.
He's like the Undertaker.
Pretty much, yes. He's getting there. It puts him behind Geronimo Allison and ahead of rookie N'Keal Harris. I mean, Mike McCoy wasn't just kryptonite to David Johnson. Larry Fitzgerald ended his 3-year streak of 100-plus catches and 1,000 yards receiving last year. While DJ was able to bounce back and finish as the number 10 running back, Larry Fitzgerald wound up finishing as the 27th best wide receiver. Nevertheless, again, sitting at 35, new coach, Cliff Kingsbury, Kyler Murray now in the fold. Most folks, the general fantasy community, are really gravitating towards Christian Kirk, who we mentioned. I mean, Anthony, we know how much they intend to throw the ball. We've heard that from Cliff, well, not so much throw, but plays. Cliff Kingsbury said he wants to run the most plays in the NFL. So while Larry Fitzgerald may not be what he was with 100 receptions, 1,000 yards, do we expect more than 69 receptions, 734 yards, and 6 touchdowns?
I think so. I think that we can see a slight bounce back from Larry Fitzgerald because what do we know? Young quarterback, young head coach, young supporting cast when you're thinking about Christian Kirk and Hakeem Butler and, what else? What other receiver there? Andy Isabella.
Yeah, most people are expecting something out of him, too.
What sticks out about Larry Fitzgerald, he's the veteran. He's a future Hall of Famer for this young offense to lean on. If you're Kyler Murray and you're in trouble, who are you going to throw it up to? Larry Fitzgerald had 0 drops on 112 targets, 0 drops.
Doesn't happen much, folks.
14th in contested catch rate. I mean, this is, do we believe that Kyler Murray is going to be better than Josh Rosen? And, of course, the answer is yes, because why did Larry Fitzgerald have a down season? Probably because the quarterback play, Larry was a 90th in target quality rating, 81st in catchable target rate. Only 81 of his 112 were catchable.
Oh, my God. Setting him up for failure. The fact that he finished with 69 receptions and 734 yards is probably considered a miracle.
Right.
6 touchdowns.
So if we're expecting this offense to be better, if we're expecting an upgrade in play calling and an upgrade at quarterback, I still think Larry Fitzgerald has maybe one more left in the tank. Yes.
I think you're getting a happy low medium here. I think that he's not going to be getting 100 receptions. He's not going to be getting 1,000 yards, but he'll finish better than he did this past year. That being the 27th best receiver. Those numbers again, 69 receptions, 734 yards, 6 touchdowns. Anthony, do you like him to finish in between there? And really, I mean, this is just for fun. Who do you think the number one Cardinals wide receiver is going to be? Is it going to be Christian Kirk or Larry Fitzgerald?
I still think it's going to be Christian Kirk if this offense is everything that we believe it's going to be.
I think it's going to be closer than folks think, though, and that's why I think that ADP, that being the 8th round, I think that's a nice pick. I think that's I would rather have him over Geronimo Allison, I think, and I'd rather have him over N'Keal Harry. I don't trust Bill Belichick. All it takes is one late practice for that guy to be banned for life. Frightens the Jesus out of me.
Mike, I mean, that's, while you were on hiatus, when we heard the news that Hakeem Butler, that N'Keal Harry, he was having mental issues.
Yeah,
didn't know where to line up.
Yeah, Belichick ain't got time for that.
He doesn't care about our fantasy teams. He doesn't care about how much the contract is. Remember, Chad Ochocinco rode the bench, bought the whole team headphones going to the Super Bowl, rode the bench. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. He doesn't care, so he's not going to care about draft capital.
Right. But all right, so are you comfortable with Larry Fitzgerald at that ADP?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we're expecting, based on ADP, based on where you finished last year, we're expecting a bounce back. Right?
Yes, I do. And would you take, because we just talked about Allen Robinson, who's going roughly around sooner in PPR.
Mm-hmm.
Are you taking Allen Robinson, or would you wait around or possibly reach for Larry Fitzgerald?
I would wait on Larry Fitzgerald. I don't know if I'd reach, but I would wait.
Me too.
Yeah. All right. So next up, we mentioned him already, talking about ADP at least, Geronimo Allison of the Green Bay Packers. Anthony, I'm going to kind of let you take this one. I mean, he's got an ADP right now. He's going with the 11th pick in the 8th round. We've already made a bet on this show. I like Marquez Valdes-Scantling better this year, who, by the way, is going 2 rounds later, 9th pick in the 10th round. You've heard reports that he's probably the number 2 receiver, at least that being about Marquez Valdes-Scantling. And then also Albert Breer has reported that Scantling has picked up LaFleur's offense quickly here. I personally like him better for this offense, and he's been around in most 2 wide receiver sets, during OTAs here. So, Anthony, I'm going to let you take this one about Geronimo Allison because I don't know if I'm seeing a bounce back. I think he's going to be behind Marquez Valdes-Scantling. So I'll let you take this one.
Well, even if he's behind Marquez Valdes-Scantling, the Green Bay Packers, it's Aaron Rodgers. They are going to throw the football. And I think that there is enough for both of these players, including Devontae Adams, when I talk about him, but Marquez Valdes-Scantling and Geronimo Allison, I think they can both be productive. But what do we know? And I can't stress this enough. Aaron Rodgers, he doesn't like change. He likes familiarity. And aside from Devontae Adams, who is the longest tenured Packers pass catcher? Geronimo Allison, right? I mean, relevant one. I mean, you could, if you want to, pull whatever, you could say Jeremy Davis. He might have been on a team for the same amount of time, but, that's, what do you call it? Pulling hairs? Pulling strings?
He's handing out Gatorade, But, sure.
Packers ran the second most pass plays of any team, ran 43.3 plays per game, while Allison played. He only played 5 games. He ran a route in 77.3% of the time. Saw 3 red zone targets and 3 end zone targets in 5 games. So, he was active in the red area when he did play. And the Packers ran 3 wide sets 75.9% of the time.
Right, but here's my general concern here. And then I'll let you finish up. My general concern is, while those are all great numbers, we have a new coaching staff. And yes, I'm sure LaFleur is going to have some 3 wide receiver sets there. I'm not being naive, but we've also heard the reports that he wants to get the ball to the running backs more through the passing game. You've mentioned that there could be possibly
his quarterback is Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't care. He doesn't care what the coach wants.
Okay.
He's probably older than the coach. He don't care.
So we're going to disregard the fact that LaFleur wants to throw the ball to the running back more, but that's what the only reason why I'm bringing that up is because if that pans out, if the coach gets what he wants, if we get a bounce back from Jimmy Graham, which you have suggested, obviously he's not going to light the world on fire, but whatever. Don't you worry a little bit about who, like if you're like me and you think Geronimo Allison will be the third receiver, that worry you a little bit? We get into that, it's cliche. We talk about it all the time. How many mouths to feed, Is that a concern then?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Aaron Rodgers threw 25 touchdown passes. He can throw 35 in his sleep.
Yeah.
So there are more touchdowns to go around for his pass catchers.
Right. So basically, I mean, Geronimo Allison last year, okay, he'll have better numbers this year, I guess you could say. So I guess from that standpoint, he'll be a bounce back. But, I mean, last year, 20 receptions, 303 yards, 2 touchdowns. That was, over 5 games played?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, sure, he'll have better numbers. But I think Marquez Valdes-Scantling is the receiver to own, besides Devontae Adams, and going 2 rounds later. I'd be more comfortable with that. Anthony, we've already made a bet on this. Any last words to say about Geronimo Allison?
We made a bet on this. I don't remember making a bet, but I'm willing to make a bet.
On the last show during our mock draft, I had asked you towards the end, Marquez Valdes-Scantling against Geronimo Allison. And you were pretty quick to say yes. I had to talk you into that one.
Okay, so we made the bet. We don't have to do it again. But yeah, I'm going to, I don't like Geronimo Allison's ADP. But I am willing to take a shot, depending on if I have stability earlier in my draft. Because Geronimo Allison, I do believe he has, wide receiver 2 upside.
So would you rather just, to end it, we talked about Larry Fitzgerald. Would you rather have Geronimo Allison or Larry Fitzgerald, who are going right around the same back into the 8th round?
That's tough. Because of durability, Larry Fitzgerald.
Okay. Very well. Anthony, before we get to our next player, are you up yet in SFB?
That is big. No. I thought I was.
Oh, you're not? Okay.
I thought I was.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm still waiting for mine. I'm about 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 more picks till I'm up. I've mentioned my player off air who I want. I will not mention on air because we are a live show, and who knows, one of the Yoshi Division folks may be watching potentially. So I will not say who I'm looking for, but whatever. So still waiting impatiently. Anthony, next player up before I say too much is Devin Funchess of the now Indianapolis Colts. He's going with the 4th pick in the 12th round. Behind Dante Moncrief, behind Anthony Miller. He's ahead of Traquan Smith and Devontae Parker. It really comes down to 2 things here. Why are we optimistic here about Devin Funchess when a lot of times, especially on this show, we've called him one of the most unsexiest players? Really, it's 2 things. He is now, no disrespect to Cam Newton, but he is now playing with Andrew Luck. And on top of that, I think the other thing is Eric Ebron's 2018 season gives us hope for Funchess here with the Indianapolis Colts. Sitting at 6'4", 225 pounds. He's right around that same frame as Eric Ebron. 16 of his 21 career touchdowns have been inside the red zone. And that's exactly where we expect Funchess to be utilized the most here, Anthony. I mean, we're expecting a bounce back here, no?
I do. And Devin Funchess, he never has really lived up. And you remember when they moved on from Kelvin Benjamin, and Funchess looked pretty good, but I never really bought in. I never really bought into Devin Funchess when he was the wide receiver 1 in Carolina, because I don't think that's what he is. Right. And I've said this before about Funchess. Right. I believe that he's going to get a quarterback upgrade. Let's bring this up. 87th percentile speed score at the combine when he was a rookie. 82nd percentile catch radius. Some of the tangibles are there. Mm-hmm. Last year, He had 7 red zone receptions out of 12. But here's the alarming thing. He was first in drops with 11 and first in drop rate. 72nd amongst receivers in catchable target rate. So 58 of his 79 were catchable. I fully expect that number to go up with Andrew Luck. This is going to be a productive offense. This is going to be a productive offense in the red zone. I get that they have really talented tight ends, but Devin Funchess, he could be busy. And you've said it before, I've said it before, I believe he's going to take some of Eric Ebron's red zone production.
Yeah, I don't think we see double-digit touchdowns out of Ebron this year.
I think that's what Funchess's touchdown upside is, realistically 7 or 8 to 10 in this offense.
So we're planting our flag.
T.Y. Hilton doesn't have the cleanest bill of health either.
Right.
So if Funchess does have a couple of weeks where he's the wide receiver 1, there's still so many options. It's not Carolina where it was Christian McCaffrey, Devin Funchess, and a bunch of pieces. So I think Devin Funchess, with all the talent and the supporting cast, if he is thrust into a wide receiver 1 role some weeks, depending on what the cornerback matchup is, he can still be productive.
Right. I like it. Over or under 6.5 touchdowns.
Over.
Yeah, me too. Okay. And by the way, Anthony, just to close this out, so we're officially saying here, bounce back player, love his value in the 12th round, and useless stat here that will probably be corrected in 2019. Devin Funchess, the only division that he doesn't have a touchdown against is the AFC South, the division now that he calls home. So
interesting tidbit.
Useless tidbit, but nevertheless, whatever. So take that if you give a damn. Anthony, next guy we'll talk about, Marquise Goodwin. He's going 2 rounds later than Devin Funchess, who we just mentioned. 7th pick of the 14th round, almost a full round behind rookie Deebo Samuel. I mean, he went from being the 31st ranked receiver in 2018 to being the 80th ranked receiver last year. And listen, a lot of that was due in part to some injuries. He was having some personal problems. But when we talk about bouncing back, when he attempts to bounce back here, the landscape in San Francisco
I think he can breathe and he'll bounce back.
Right. But the landscape has changed here in San Francisco. Not dramatically. This isn't now the Los Angeles Rams, but the 49ers went out and drafted Deebo Samuel, as I mentioned. They went out and drafted Jalen Hurd, which is probably going to be more of a Kyle Juszczyk in the form of a Swiss Army knife type of player. So he really won't kill Goodwin too much as far as production. But then there's also Dante Pettis, who folks are expecting big things out of. So, Anthony, I don't think we see him bounce back. When we talk about bounce back here, bounce back from the 80th, yes, I mean, you mentioned he can breathe and he'll bounce back. But he's not going to be the 31st ranked wide receiver when 2019 ends. At least I don't think so. Do you have a reason to tell me otherwise?
31st is going to be tough. But listen, you bring up Deebo Samuel and Jalen Hurd. Look at the track record of rookie receivers. Number 1, how often they don't pan out. Maybe they take some time to get going. Maybe they need a year. Marquise Goodwin with a healthy Jimmy Garoppolo, not so much last year, but if you remember 2017, James Garoppolo targeted Marquise Goodwin 8.2 times per game. Marquise Goodwin with James Garoppolo in 2017 finishes a top 20 wide receiver in 3 of the 6 games they played together. See,
why do you keep calling him James?
I don't know. Just for the hell of it.
Okay.
Just for the hell of it.
Keep it going.
But last year, Marquise Goodwin is one of the big reasons why I had an off year in fantasy football. Because I was one of those people who bought in to the hype.
To the idiot mobile.
I bought into a player who really has only shown us a limited resume. And I bought into him in the single-digit rounds. his current ADP, double-digit rounds, 12th, 13th round, is a little bit more doable to take a shot on Marquise Goodwin. If Devin Funchess, because they're going relatively near each other within a round. If he's off the board.
Funchess is currently slated for the late in the 12th. Marquise Goodwin currently in half point.
Oh, wow. Okay. A little bit more
sitting in the 14th round.
That's 2 rounds.
Now, just to give you really quick some of the receivers here, we're looking at, and I'll name off 6, including Goodwin. Michael Gallup, Marquise Goodwin, Marquise Brown, John Brown. Then you have Adam Humphries and then Tyrell Williams. I mean, am I nuts for thinking Adam Humphries is going to be more productive? I mean, he'll be more productive than Marquise Goodwin.
Yeah. In Tennessee.
That's the only reason why I'm hesitant to plant my flag there. That's literally, like, if he's still in Tampa Bay, I mean, his ADP is not where it is then, but.
It's all ugly.
That's a crapshoot. Yeah, well, listen, they're in the 14th round for a reason. This isn't exactly the penthouse of your fantasy football draft. But all right, so you'll be comfortable taking Goodwin there, but you're not expecting, to be clear, you're not expecting him to get back to the days of 2017.
No. Okay. No. It's hard. No, I can't. I can't.
Goodwin may be a nice best ball play. But as far as my season-long roster, I don't know if I'm taking a flyer on Marquise Goodwin.
I mean, I have him on a dynasty roster or two, and he's obviously not one of my top starters, but, I mean, it could be worse.
Right. It could be. Anthony, before we move on to our next player, update of my SFB draft. I was 1 pick away from me picking, but my guy went off the board, Anthony. So, David Montgomery went off the board in the 6th round.
Jeez.
5th pick in the 6th round. So, at JPeakFF, you broke my heart. So, there you go. So
any good about Marquise Goodwin? He was 6th in yards per reception, albeit he only had 43 targets, had 17.2 yards per reception, 5th in cushion rate, and then 5th in target separation.
And a career high 4 touchdowns, if that matters to you. But So, all right. So we're not labeling him. He's bouncing back from 80, but don't expect 30, 31. That's basically where we're ending that discussion. We got one more player here to mention, Anthony. That being Zay Jones, who currently on Fantasy Football Calculator on half-point formats, he's not even listed. So there's that. He finished as a top 3 receiver in 3 out of the last 5 games. 9 or more targets in 4 out of the last 5 games. So as Josh Allen got more and more comfortable in that offense, he got more and more comfortable with Zay Jones, and it showed. All this led to him finishing 2018 with 56 receptions, 652 yards, and what some people may be surprised with, 7 touchdowns.
Yeah, and 6 of his 7 touchdowns came after week 10.
Exactly, yeah. And 34th in the league among wide receivers, then in half-point formats. So to me, I mean, he's already bounced back from what was a regrettable rookie campaign. The sophomore season was not a sensational one, but a good one, an improvement. Now, here's the question. We talk about how Marquise Goodwin's not going to be able to get back to the days of 30. Do we think Zay Jones can push past 34th and head up maybe into that late 20s? Or what are we thinking we're going to get out of Zay Jones here?
They added John Brown.
Yeah, right.
They added Cole Beasley, who Bill's beat writer, I believe Vic Carucci, said he believes Cole Beasley could lead the team in receptions. I think he did say that recently. Mm-hmm. They have Zay Jones. Everybody gushed over Robert Foster. But I'm really buying into Zay Jones. I don't know if I can call him that wide receiver too. But when he gets the opportunity, Zay Jones is productive. He finished 2018 as a top 20 receiver in 4 of the last 7 games, including, right?
Yeah.
In games that he saw at least 8 targets, he was productive.
mean, that was his whole back end of the season. It was
that whole second half. He was one of the more productive receivers in football.
Right.
I believe it was in 5 games in which he saw at least 9 targets. He finished as a top 20 receiver 4 times.
Yeah. And now we're talking about an off season of working with Josh Allen, getting more comfortable. I understand that they signed Cole Beasley and they got John Brown. I get it. John Brown's going to be the home run hit every now and again. Let's be real here about what John Brown is. Cole Beasley will be more of the third down possession sort of receiver. He'll definitely eat, that's for sure. I think Zay Jones is going to be the number 1 receiver in Buffalo.
Then what do you make out of Robert Foster?
Robert Foster is the competition to Zay Jones. That, to me, that is the competition. It's not John Brown. It's not Cole Beasley to me. It's Robert Foster. Would you agree with that sentiment, that that's the competition for Zay Jones here as far as top Bills receiver?
Yeah, I do. But I'm buying into Zay.
Yeah, me too.
And
I don't judge people buying into
all
Foster
of these
either,
Bills receivers are going, past the 60th off the board?
Yeah.
I mean, Foster's going as a 68. You said Zay's not even in the conversation.
Yeah.
I don't see, where's John Brown? John Brown's not on the list either. Oh, no, he is, 67th, right in front of Foster. Cole Beasley not in the conversation.
Much rather have Foster over John Brown. I'm sorry, I'm not a John. I know people want John Brown to be something more than what he is, but thank you.
John Brown a more reliable version of Marquise Goodwin?
Sure.
Is that what John Brown is? Where he's going to have those big-time games and then give you absolutely nothing? Only John Brown plays a little bit more.
Like, he may be a nice best ball play as well, John Brown. Because every now and again, he's going to have that week where he scores you a 70-yard touchdown. Maybe a bomb from Josh Allen. And he'll get it out there, too, Josh Allen. He's got the arm for it. To me, if you're talking about season long, it's Robert Foster or Zay Jones. I'm buying into Zay Jones. So, but I mean, just again, term of definition here. We're talking about bounce back. Or how far is he pushing it? Are we expecting 30 within that 30 to 35 range, or are we expecting 25 to 29?
Out of Zay, or were we talking about?
Out of Zay.
And where did he finish? 31?
He finished as a 34th best wide receiver in half-point formats. So I'm asking, are we talking 34 to 30, or are we talking 25 to 29, or...
To be bold... I can buy into 25 to 30.
I don't even think that's bold.
26 to 30.
I don't even think that's bold.
Okay.
You give him more receptions, tack on some yards. I think the touchdowns are going to,
I mean, who finished ahead of him? Aguilar, Westbrook, Mike Williams, Mohamed Sanu, Shepard, Tate, Corey Davis.
Right. Not exactly the stiffest of competition.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So
I think we can see. I think we can we call Zay Jones, instead of a bounce back, a breakout?
Sure.
Or is that or is that not breakout numbers if he doesn't break the top 24?
It depends on people's taste, but I could think you'd go on a breakout. I'll sign up for that. Well, that'll do it for our wide receivers there. That's our bounce-back wide receivers. Again, some of these guys we pick ahead of the show more or less to determine it right in front of your eyes. If we think they're going to bounce back, it's based on performance or ADP, but hopefully it's helpful to you. Use it in your drafts, use it maybe in your SFB drafts. But also, we already did running back. So, again, you can go to some of our previous shows to check that out. Anthony, anything else to say to the fine audience before we ride off into the sunset?
Well, for one,
sure.
I'm still on the clock. I mean, I'm still waiting to go on the clock.
Okay.
But number two, yeah, absolutely. If you're listening right now in podcast format, especially you Apple Podcast users, please leave us a 5-star rating and a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or any podcast platform that allows you to leave the 5-star rating and review. Because the more subscriptions, ratings, and reviews that we receive, the more people we can reach. And of course, in the end, we want to help each and every one of you win fantasy football championships, dominate your leagues, and absolutely positively crush the competition.
And that's an order.
We will maintain the culture of winning we've built here in the FF Faceoff for close to 3 years since our inception and over 200 episodes. Mike, take us home.
Well, Anthony, I hope you get the pick tonight. Listen, for folks who aren't aware, by the way, these SFB drafts, they are what they call slow drafts. So it's 8-hour clock, right? 8 hours?
But you're really not supposed to take the whole 8 hours.
All right. It's frowned upon to, much like if you go into somebody's house and you don't take off your shoes,
It's like when you go to 7-Eleven and you see the change jar and it says, leave a penny, take a penny. It's like when you go and take all the pennies or you keep taking a penny every day and never leave one. That's what it's like. Or the people when you hold the door open for somebody and then they take out their phone and think, oh, let me slow down and send a text message instead of speeding up because this nice young man is holding the door for me. That's what it's like.
Okay, so there's a lot of frustration in Anthony's life on top of not being able to make his draft pick yet. But if you follow him on Twitter, the FF Realist, he will surely let you know when he does pick.
Well, I'm the guru. You're the realist.
I'm the realist. Okay, I won't tell you when Anthony picks. He will at the Real NFL Guru. There you go. There's my one mistake for the show. Folks, hope you enjoyed. We'll catch you at the end of the week. Have a good one. Cheers.
The Home Depot's making it easy to turn your favorite moment into the perfect color for any room with the Project Color app. Upload any image, then discover the colors and paint to match. Now you're a swipe and a click closer to everything you need for your next project. Explore the most popular colors and trending palettes to find your perfect paint. Get a colorful new experience with the Project Color app, then shop our best brands with gallons starting from just $25.97 at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. U.S. only. See store for details. The Home Depot's making it easy to turn your favorite moment into the perfect color for any room with the Project Color app. Upload any image, then discover the colors and paint to match. Now you're a swipe and a click closer to everything you need for your next project. Explore the most popular colors and trending palettes to find your perfect paint. Get a colorful new experience with the Project Color app, then shop our best brands with gallons starting from just $25.97 at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. U.S. only. See store for details.